Good morning, all of you. My name is Shweta Saxena, and today I am going to give you a video lecture on research methodology, and the topic is research process. There are various steps involved in research process, and these steps are these: defining the problem, review of existing literature. The next one is formulation of hypothesis. Next one, research design, sample design, collection of data, analysis of data, and interpretation and preparing of the report. Now we will discuss these steps one by one. The first one is defining the problem. First of all, the researcher has to formulate the problem in which he wants to study. Like the problem should be like this: like he is interested in a particular subject or in a particular field. He has to take the problem in that field, in that interest of subject. He has to inquiry of the problem, and problem should be very specific because it relates to the objective of the study. If the problem will be clear, if it is clear, then the objective will be clear, and we can easily further go ahead for the next process. The next step is review of existing literature. After formulation of the problem, the next step is review of existing literature like books, magazines, and government reports and journals, etc. We have to study these things like if we can gain more knowledge about the problem we are going to study. Sometimes the problem has already been discussed, already been evaluated, so we can have that data of the problem. So if we have, we can get the information from already existing literature. We get easily get the idea about the problem, and further we can move on to the next level. And the next step is formulation of hypothesis. We will after review of existing literature, we are going to form a hypothesis. Hypothesis is a statement, it's a tentative assumption to direct a study, and to it is very helpful to draw out the conclusion of the study. It should be very specific and limited because it has to be tested. Several tests are involved in to test the hypothesis of the problem, and it should be very specific and clear. And the next step is to research design. In research design, it is a blueprint of the research. It specifies the objective of the study, scope of the studies, and methodology. And it should be very clear and should be very specific, logical, and systematic. Because research design is totally clear the picture of the whole research process, and it specifies the collection of data, analysis of the data, interpretation, measurement, different measurement techniques. So research design, there are three types of research design, like research design in case of descriptive research studies, research design in case of exploratory research studies, and research design in case of hypothesis testing research studies. It is totally depend on the nature of the problem, what is our problem, and what I have to decide in which we have to do the research. That afterwards we decide the research design, these three research design. And after deciding the research design, we will go to sample design. In sample design, we collect sample cause a complete survey of items is not possible for many circumstances, cause it is very time consuming, and it is very expensive. So we have to collect a sample from the given population. A sample is a small part of population which represents the population units, and sample size and sample units should be like that it best represent the population, so that we can easily analysis the responses of the data, and we can easily interpret that data. There are different techniques we use in sampling, like probability sampling and non-probability sampling. In probability sampling, there are equal number of chances to assess, there are equal number of items to be included in a sample, and in non-probability sampling there are not such cases are there. In probability sampling are of many types, like simple random sampling and stratified sampling, systematic sampling, cluster sampling, and in non-probability sampling, we will go for quota sampling and convenience sampling and judgment sampling. And according to our nature of the problem, nature of the study, we can choose the different sampling techniques. And the next step is collection of data. In collection of data, we go for observation method, telephonic interview method, or schedule method, or questionnaire method. We can collect the primary data from these different techniques. The primary data is a first-hand information which is very accurate and adequate for our study, and it is very useful for the study because it is first-hand information. There is no biasness involved in that data, so we can use these different techniques, observation, questionnaire, interview, so that we can get the adequate information from the data. After collection of the data, we will go for analysis of the data. In analysis of data, there are different things involved, like we have to go for coding and tabulation of the data, because we in research we get the information from the review of existing literature and from the primary data in data collection method. The information is in a form of raw data, so the one who is not technically expert cannot easily find out the meaningful information from that raw data. So we have to convert into coding and tabulation, so that we can easily interpret easily analyze the meaningful information from that data, and we can use it for a decision making purpose. So in analysis of data, we can also use the different statistical tools, like different statistical formulas for analysis purpose. After analysis of the data, we can also use in this step hypothesis testing. In hypothesis testing, we use different tests like chi-square test, F-test, T-test. These tests are used to test the hypothesis which we have formulated in previous step. Afterwards, we interpret the data. When we analyze the data by different formulas, different statistical methods, afterwards we interpret this information, so that the manager or the person who needs this information can easily get the results from that data. And in interpretation, we can easily summarize the findings of the report. After interpretation, we prepare the report. The report should be very clear, so that one can easily find out the meaningful information from that. It is very logical, and it should be in a very precise way. Should not be very there should be meaningful information in it. And in introduction, the objective of the study, scope of the study, and methodology and limitation of the study should be there, so that easily can get the idea of the report. And there should be summarized the findings of the report in a very precise manner. And afterwards, we can use the methodology in a form of main report. Main report should be very clear and in a sequence. And afterwards, in the report, we should conclude the report. We again define the findings which we have in the research, and the researcher what he has done in the research. He should easily give the information in a report and in a clearly manner, and conclude the report. That's for all. Thank you very much.